I thought it was going to take 3 to 5 years before they introduce an outright currency or an actual known way of trading around the dollar and be involved with gold. I think the surprise this fall is we're going to get either a very good clue about that, or we're going to see the beginning of it and start to understand what the ramifications are going to be in a couple next years. It's one of the reasons why I think gold has gone up the way it's gone up, and one of the reasons why I believe it's staying up.
At the birth of our nation, our forefathers took a stand with their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establish liberty from oppressive political and financial tyranny. Now you can take a stand as well to declare your personal liberty from inflation and the banks. I'm Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the 4th of July week specials while supplies last. First, we featured 2024 American Silver Eagles at just $5.95 over spot. Next, we have 2024 Gold 1/10 ounce Eagles at $39 over melt per coin. And finally, in a Liberty and Finance exclusive, we have pre-33 AU Gold $10 Liberties at just $59 over melt. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you. Happy 4th of July.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is our good friend Peter Grandich from Peter Grandich and Company. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, Elijah.
Well, it's great to have you today. We're halfway through the year right now, and I'd like to get a review of the 5 crises that we're facing. A few months ago, we had you on and we talked about these 5 crises that you've pointed out. And one of them was especially timely right now, following the first presidential debate, political paralysis, and really the chaos we're seeing right now, especially in the Democratic Party. But it seems like it's very concerning as well, just for the other nations that are looking at the U.S., either if it's our allies are saying, is the U.S. stable? And also our adversaries may be looking at Biden's performance and seeing maybe that this is the time to strike. It's very concerning. Your perspective on what we saw during the debate and how it plays into this really bigger issue of political paralysis right now.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, it's important to note that we're not alone in this. Canada, which is not only our neighbor to the north, but still a major trading partners of ours, is going through political paralysis as well, and a movement to rid themselves of their current leader. We just saw over the weekend in France when a hardliner group has won more of a vote than people expected. The opposition took to the streets in a very bad way, and it's all around the world. And you're right, here in the United States, it has been something that has been going on for quite some time. This isn't just because of a debate. The biggest farce of it all, Elijah, really, is for suddenly all the people on the Democratic side to go, oh, we didn't realize he was that bad. I mean, I don't understand the logic in their thinking. Did they think somehow magically he can perform when they knew that he had to? That was with a week's worth of rest. Like I said to somebody before the debate, Elijah, this is really important. If you think of some of the critical times in our history, when Roosevelt, in the midst of the war, had to travel an awful long distance as a crippled man to meet with Stalin and Churchill, he didn't take a week off to prepare for that. It took him almost a week to get there. And then, of course, Kennedy didn't take a week off in the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And yet here was a guy taking a week off for a so-called 90-minute debate. And no one on his own side goes, wait a minute, what kind of guy do we have that needs to take a week off to do a 90-minute debate? What did they expect? I think that's the untold story, and it's not being discussed. But nothing surprises us in this political scenario. My feelings about the political paralysis, Elijah, is take a step back. It's all part of a reasons for what I call build a financial arc. It was one of 5 highlighted reasons. They're not the only reasons, but the deficit and the debts retirement and aging crisis is number two. The immigration from an economic standpoint, I don't get too much into the politicals of it. Just the economic cost of it is going to be a crisis in itself. BRICS, which is the biggest one, and hopefully we can spend some time in that because that is the biggest thing I think Wall Street is missing in my career, that it's not understanding what's happening there and developing. And most of the people that follow them are going to be totally unprepared. And then the number five was the political paralysis. And even before the debate, my argument was not only can the Democrats and Republicans not even get in a room now and make any type of half-hearted attempt to legitimate legislation, but they each have factions within their parties now that are splintering even more. And for the Democrats now, it's just total chaos. This is not anything that I know of history that we can compare it to. And there are so many still cards to be played out, including in a few days from when you and I speak, Trump appears for so-called sentencing. And what if this judge, and who knows what's happening behind those scenes, sentences them to a jail term? I mean, it's just, it's amazing the complacency, and I'm sorry for going on, but this is my biggest concern overall, Elijah. The complacency of investors in the professional community, given all these problems, and we have so many more, from crime to Islamic movement overtaking Western powers and thoughts. There's just so many different things. And there's just a complacency on Wall Street as if, don't worry, be happy. And I think this is the absolute least time to be taking a don't worry, be happy attitude.
When it comes to political paralysis here in the US, it seems like, a lot of the things that we're seeing don't seem to be things that would happen in a first world nation, right? It looks like a banana republic, like what we're seeing with the conviction of Trump being, a convicted felon. And we're seeing this terrible performance by the person who's supposed to be running the country. What do you think our adversaries are? How do you think they'll be reacting to what is happening right now politically?
Well, it's only a net positive for them. How, if you're China or Russia, how is this a negative? I mean, some argument, I guess, could be made that a Trump presidency probably is going to lead to a much faster resolution to the Ukrainian war. I think that's one thing you can take out of this on everything that we know and see. But I also, at the same time, will say that if I was China, and I was going to know that I was going to be getting into a war with the United States, I think right now I'd rather have Biden as president than Trump as president. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this, and we don't know how all the decisions are going to be made. But what's really, really just unfathomable is that let's not forget, we still have 6 more months, I think, for his presidency, even if he's not the somehow withdraws and so forth. I've said it, and I said it last year. I didn't think he was going to be on the ballot come election day. And I've said it because of people who seem to know how deteriorating it was, that it didn't seem like he can last. And obviously that's come. And I'll say this, and I say it openly throughout my commentary. The 2 worst words we could ever hear out of all of this is President Harris. As bad as everything is with Biden, as bad as all the other names you can think of, if for some reason that woman had to take over as presidency for any length of time, I don't even want to think of the ramifications of what that can be. And trust me, powerful Democrats know that. They know she's not the answer, so they have to include that in this juggle thing because she's next in line. Do you get them both to step down? I mean, there's just so many variables that people have yet to talk about and consider. And that plays into this complacency that I see among people. And also, it's not just complacency, Elijah. There's an attitude among people, well, there's nothing I can do. This is the way of the world now. And these are all the things, and I know I can say this by being interviewed, these are all the things that an enemy of what was good and what made this country great, which stood on godly principles, that was built on Judeo principles, where morals, where 10 commandments and all those things played a key role and are now being just totally deteriorated and destroyed. this plays into the hands of those people who don't want to see that anymore. And one day, like I said, I'm certain when Noah was building his ark and it was 80 degrees and sunny, they must have been looking up saying, "You are really a jerk." And that's basically the type of emails and comments I get now about my building an ark. But like I said, when you see all this that's transpiring, I don't know how you don't err on the side of caution. I don't know how you don't hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Along that same line of thinking, we are seeing these nations, the BRICS nations, work together, right, against the best interests of the United States. Can you give us kind of some latest developments that you've seen that are really strengthening the ties between these nations? And also, I know that they're probably going to be expanding here soon as well.
Well, you're blessed in the sense that I know Liberty and Finance has a relationship with Miles Franklin and obviously Andy Schectman. Andy Schectman is probably one of the three brightest minds right now, in my opinion, that I know of, who completely grasped and understood what is happening with the BRICS and what it can lead to and so forth. So I'm stealing a little bit of his thunder because I get educated by him each time I talk with him or see him interviewed and all. But one of the things I've said from the get-go, and it's so hard, I gave a talk a few weeks ago to young financial advisors. I don't think there was anybody there under 40, over 40 other than me in the room that were in the financial service business. And a couple of people thought when I talked about BRICS, I was going to talk about housing. That's how off base they are to understanding what's transpiring. And I asked this young person because he said to me, listen, he started naming it's not great countries, it's not a big thing and all. I said, well, hold on a second. These are all countries, whether it ends up 11, it looks like it's at least going to be 40, because that's how many serious countries have now gone through the motion to apply. And before it's all said and done, I think it's going to reach triple digit members. If all those people at one time didn't purposely shy away from the United States, didn't purposely create ways of not even using its currency and all, does that benefit us now that they're going to do that when they didn't do that in the past? It has to take away growth to us, sales, whatever you want to look at. There's no positive outcome to say that the United States benefits from the formation of the BRICS, where countries are going to purposely look to not trade and to do business outside the United States. And yet, it's just as if everything, is hunky-dory. And these things are taking very serious notion. I think part of your question, because I'm rambling on here, sorry, Elijah, but when I think about it, all the pre-moves that they've made, all the junior banking type of programs that they've set up, all these things now, I'll tell you this, I thought it was going to take 3 to 5 years before they introduce an outright currency or an actual known way of trading around the dollar and be involved with gold. I think the surprise this fall is we're going to get either a very good clue about that, or we're going to see the beginning of it and start to understand what the ramifications are going to be in the couple next years. It's one of the reasons why I think gold has gone up the way it's gone up, and one of the reasons why I believe it's staying up. I think one of the big surprises to people that are even bullish, or people like you that make a living day in and day out, we've been so used to gold rallying and then declining over the last years. And no one's given the credit, given this massive move that we've had, how well it's consolidated here. It's off the main. It's not discussed at all in the main street, Wall Street and all. And every time it looks like it's going to decline, boom, strong buying comes in. And I think that's because there are people aware in groups of how substantial it's going to play a role in all of this, and therefore are going to use any type of weakness in it to continue to accumulate. Look at the story that they planted. That was a plan. I've been at this 40 years. Oh, all of a sudden there's a new story. China didn't buy this month. That's the end of the gold story. How long did that work for? A few hours? A day? It just tells you how different the physical trading now is overcoming the paper market. A couple of days ago, we had that huge raid after the Friday releases. What happened? In just a matter of 4 or 5 trading days, gold made up all that loss. In my younger days, it would take months to make up losses like that. So I'm singing to the choir, and I know many of the people that watch your programs and all, but take heed and take comfort. Gold and silver, and this is something that people that go back with Grandich are surprised to hear because it was always my second choice. But I think silver right now is acting, if not helping lead gold through this consolidation and correction. Its physical argument has changed dramatically for the better. And I would, if I was going out to do a portfolio now of physical metal, I would want equal weight now in gold and silver. And I used at least 2 times as much gold as I would silver. So I think all in all, this consolidation and correction that we went through was healthy. And it also continues to show that physical demand is still constant because they can't take this market lower for any length of time.
Now, as we look into the rest of the year, what do you expect for precious metals? Because obviously we are seeing this consolidation now. People have called it the summer doldrums. Do you expect gold and silver to move higher further into the summer, or do you think it'll be more like the fall timeframe that we'll see new all-time highs?
So I've had a target since around 1250 or 1300. I talk within 10 years, which would be 2025. So this goes back to 2015 of 2536 in 2025. That was my slogan back then. I think that number is very, very doable. And I think it's doable this year. I think the difference will be is we won't go as fast and we won't go as aggressive. And I think that's actually a healthier and more constructive for those. And I've never been in that camp. You know that. I've never been in the 5,000, 7,000, and some of the crazy numbers that get thrown out for gold and silver. But if you're going to believe in those numbers, the fact we got the first part done, we've corrected and consolidated without any really giving back of any real big gains. And now if we can move in a more orderly fashion up, I think that'll be combined with, I suspect, and it's just an expectation, I don't have any certainty in it, but I think the second half of this year for the stock market won't be as strong as the first. And that is good. We don't want the stock market crashing all because we want money to roll over. And I think we're seeing it. I'll tell you what's been interesting in this correction. In the last 4 weeks, I've heard from people about the metals and shares, but more about physical metals that I haven't heard from in years. And only because they went out looking again, because they haven't invested it, and they found stories about me that they reached out. Peter, I didn't even know you were still, involved in that. And I think it's quite interesting that there's an underneath level of any real weakness that's going to buy it. And I think they're not going to get as much as they like, and that'll cause them to keep raising their lid. And the real key pivot is going to be what happens with the BRICS. If I'm wrong and it's just another dull meeting and only a handful of countries join and there's no real announcement of anything of a real advancement, then I'll probably have to say that, maybe that's going to temper or peak gold and silver at that time. But everything and all the meetings that they're having and all the things that people are saying and doing. And like I said, you just have to listen to a few minutes of Andy Schectman to understand what's really transpiring. I think all point to a higher gold and silver price as we go through the rest of the year.
Could we get an update on a couple of the other points? The 5 crises, one of them obviously being the BRICS, the political paralysis. The first one you mentioned, though, is the national debt. And that seems to be something that people talk about it nowadays, but it doesn't seem like any political leader really wants to do anything about it. Obviously, the national debt has increased under Trump and under Biden significantly. So it's not like this election will have any impact on that whatsoever. Your perspective on that, and what can we do to prepare for that?
So going back to that meeting with these young advisors, I asked the question, when was the last time the United States balanced its budget? And some said, well, before COVID, they did it every year. COVID, one guy said, is what caused. I said, we haven't had a balanced budget since Clinton. And young guys were like startled, and they went into their, I can even hear them asking Siri, when was because they thought I was providing false information. Now we have it's hard to say this, Elijah. I've been at this my 41st year, and it's still hard to say. We have multi-trillion with a T, yearly deficits. When I was in the business, we didn't even have $1 trillion in long-term debt. Now we have yearly multiple. It's completely out of control now. To understand how significant it is, the Congressional Budget Office, and people need to know, it's probably one of the last places of semi-bipartisanship and not heavily influenced by political motives. They have upped again their target for the level of debt to now $54 trillion in less than 10 years. And I say this to people, you just explain this to me, all you bullish folks. In less than 10 years, the debt is likely to be 50 trillion. Let's just say interest rates are just 5%. That's not a lot. It's historically not a high number. That would mean that that debt rolled over or whatever is going to have interest of $2.5 trillion. The best year we ever had was $5.3 trillion as income in the United States. So let's just say that raises for a few years. It even gets to $6 trillion. We don't have a bad recession or whatever the case may be. We're going to be still looking at almost half the entire income of America will go just to pay our interest. Here's the news, Elijah. Government services and the way we've accustomed to life, both on the federal, state, and local level, will cease to exist. We just won't be able to live and expect. And as things get worse, what do people do? They turn to government to do more. Not less during tough times, more. So what choices are they going to have? They're only going to have two. We can either go through an horrific deflationary period, watch a lot of the debt default and what have you, and many people felt that's what should have been done in the 2008 crisis, and now that's too late, or highly inflationary. And I believe they'll choose the inflationary because it's an easier pill to swallow than that. And you explained to me at that point in time, take off your I sell metals for a living hat and just explain to me how much more faith or less faith will people have in paper. And if they don't have as much faith as they once did, they still have to turn and go to something else. And that's the other bullish argument for gold and silver. Now, some people will say this to you, oh, I've heard that for years. And they're right. But when you were hearing it for years, it was 3 trillion debt, then it was 7 trillion. People forget since Obama's took over, it's almost doubled just since Obama. The parabolic rise. And Trump does not offer any on this end, any change in that. It's not like suddenly he's going to bring in austerity and demand that Congress can't go home unless they balance the budget and all. So the future, 5, 7, or 10 years from now, the dollar cannot be in the same light as one may look at it now. And that's just another bullish reason for gold. And Elijah, listen, we've always been candid since the first interview. This is your livelihood. It's not mine. I have no relation. I don't get any commission or anything from anybody. But never has it been more fundamentally sound, despite the recent increase in the metals, to own metals for no other reason that what I still tell in our planning group and hope it doesn't go up. And I tell you this story before. People say, why, Ms. Grandich, why do you want me to buy something that you think or hope is not going to go up? And my argument is, well, since most people's lungs are in financial assets, you really don't want it to go up because it will never offset to the level because so many people are so leveraged in every way to financial assets and in debt. That's the other thing to talk about. Let's get past that federal level. Let's understand that states don't have printing presses. Many states and certainly many cities are required to balance the budget. Politicians can only do two things, Elijah. They can raise or cut taxes. They very rarely cut them. They often raise them. Or they can cut or increase services. They can only cut services going forward. And as services are taken away and more people suffer from it and more people who have not built their ark or become what I call self-sufficient, they're going to demand more from their government when their government can do less and less during that period of time. And I think people outside the United States recognize that. And I think that's why they're much bigger buyers of physical metals right now than even U.S. and, North American, Canadian residents.
No, building a financial arc, I think, is very important at this time. I also like to discuss with you building a spiritual arc. I know there are, definitely Western values that are under attack today from all sides, even internally, obviously, probably very much so internally here in the U.S. Your perspective on that, how to build a spiritual arc during this time?
I would say that for someone myself, or at least for 20 years, and certainly the last 10 or 15, openly wears his Catholic Christian face on his sleeve. It's intertwined into all levels of my work. Even when I dealt with athletes, it was one of the major reasons why I stopped dealing in the sports industry, because of how woke sports world came. I can tell you, as weeks go by, there seems to be more attacks than positives about it. The people who disagree with it, or worse, walk with evil spirits, are raising the bar, not only to me, but you can see it across everywhere. We just watched for this past month, people, I'm trouble with this, and I hope I can say this, and if I offend somebody, I'm sorry. If you want my personal opinion, this is it. I really think the country's a mess when we spend a month supporting things related to pride or alternative thinking or whatever you want to call it, and we only give one day a year to veterans. I mean, it's really, really a messed up scenario. When you think about it, the ultimate sacrifice and the ultimate person that really, or persons that should get all our support as Americans, are those who give their lives and limbs for the freedoms that we've learned in this country, and we give them one day. And yet, so I really think the whole moral compass has gone out of whack, and it's getting worse. And as much as a win by Trump will give people somewhat of a relief, and there'll probably be some actions that look like, well, maybe it won't be as bad. But I just think the boat has sailed. It's just like France now. It's nice that you can come out and say, hey, we learned now that foreigners have caused this and we caused that. But you're not going to get millions of people to just get up and leave. It's just not going to happen anymore. And, Europe is basically overrun with that. We're getting that way in North America. We just had a congresswoman hold a rally in her district where they never spoke even English. They talked the language of her country, and they had a prime minister there, and there wasn't an American flag to be found. And she's a U.S. congressperson. I mean, to me, that's treason. That's absolutely treason. So I don't see it getting better, Elijah. I think we're in a huge spiritual battle. We're not supposed to spend any time thinking, is this the end? If Jesus wasn't told the hour, why should I start thinking, is this the hour? But if it's not the beginning of the end, we're getting a slight preview of what it could be like. And I think people without a spiritual foundation, a belief of something more than all of just this, it's going to be just horrific for them to deal with life daily. I think the only thing that will get you through that day is your faith and belief that it's not all just what's here and now. And someone said to me the other day, and I'll close with this, Elijah, or at least to this question of yours. What if it's all not true? What if it was all made up? And my answer is from a good friend of mine. It was my best friend who passed away. He was a Catholic evangelist for almost 30 years. It's still a better way to live. And that's the way I know I'm trying to conduct myself through all of this, remembering my biblical principles, my teachings from my church, to what I'm called to do. And no matter what happens, to stand on that. It's become a lot difficult, Elijah. There's a lot less people interested in it than might have been. And in fact, there's more people who are using the opposite of that to speak out against it.
Well, thank you so much for that, Peter. I will say that there was a bit of encouragement driving down the roads here this last month. The only billboards I saw that were celebrating June were actually saying that this June is dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So I think I saw that 2 or 3 times. So it was very, very encouraging to see that.
But you live in an area that's actually focusing on that, and in a state where still that is more the thinking of people. But unfortunately, the state I'm in, New Jersey, and surrounding states are not thinking in that same manner. And Unfortunately, there's more of that, or at least that's what's being shown versus what you saw. But we must hold on to what you saw and believe, no matter even if we're the last of that, we hold on that till our last breath.
Fantastic. Well, Peter, thank you so much for your time today. If our viewers are interested in learning more, where can they find you?
Well, probably the ones that want to find me is to send emails that aren't favorable, but I'll take them all. So I almost said Twitter. Most of my communication now, or the lion's share of it's through my X page. But there is a blog, and there's also a YouTube channel as well. And let me just close, because when you get to my age, certainty of tomorrow is not as it was when you were your age. I want to especially thank you for this last few minutes that you've allowed me to speak about. It's something that isn't often granted. And I really think there's a lot of people who still believe, but feel they've almost in a sense been put in a corner and not to speak out. And I'm really thankful and privileged to your father and your company for allowing me to speak in this manner, Elijah. No matter what may be said in the comment section or whatever, I want you to know I'm very, very grateful that you give me this opportunity, and God bless you.
God bless you too, Peter.
At the birth of our nation, our forefathers took a stand with their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establish liberty from oppressive political and financial tyranny. Now you can take a stand as well to declare your personal liberty from inflation and the banks. I'm Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the 4th of July week specials while supplies last. First, we featured 2024 American Silver Eagles at just $5.95 over spot. Next, we have 2024 Gold 1/10 ounce Eagles at $39 over melt per coin. And finally, in a Liberty and Finance exclusive, we have pre-33 AU Gold $10 Liberties at just $59 over melt. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you. Happy 4th of July.